Bethlehem, in Arabic meaning house of meat, is a city in the West Bank under Palestinian Authority with a population of about 30,000 people. This city has great significance for Christianity as it is the birthplace of Jesus of Nazareth. Bethlehem is also home to one of the largest Palestinian Christian communities in the Middle East. It lies about 6 miles south of Jerusalem, standing at an elevation of about 2,500 feet above sea level. Bethlehem today is more of a tourist resort than the holy place one would expect. It is full of souvenir shops and restaurants which are part of the services that mark the city. Due to the melting pot of the region's people, beside Arabic, the native language, English is also widely spoken, along with French, German, and Latin. The Church of the Nativity, built by Constantine the Great in 330 AD, stands in the center of Bethlehem over a grotto or cave called the Holy Crypt, which according to Christian tradition is the place where Jesus was born. This is perhaps the oldest existing Christian church in the world. The birthplace of Jesus. The Door of Humility is a small rectangular entrance to the church. It was created in Ottoman times to prevent carts being driven in by looters, and to force even the most important visitor to dismount from his horse as he entered the holy place. Used to be a church under here. The Grotto of the Nativity is an underground cave located beneath the basilica. This is the cave that has been honored as a site of Christ's birth since the 2nd century. A silver star in the floor marks the very spot where Jesus Christ is believed to have been born. The star's Latin inscription reads, "Here of the Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ was born." The floor is paved in marble, and 15 lamps hang above the star. 6 belong to the Greeks, 5 belong to the Armenians, and 4 belong to the Latins.
Знamo человек. Пожалуй, твоя нация, насколько хватит, пожалуйста,
Another altar in the grotto, which is maintained by the Roman Catholics, marks the site where traditionally the Virgin Mary laid the newborn baby in the manger. The Damascus Gate was built in 1542 by the Ottoman ruler Solomon in the surrounds of the old city of Jerusalem. The wall is pierced by 8 gates. 7 are open and 1 is closed. It is also the largest and most splendid of all the other walls. The citadel surrounding the city is approximately 2.5 miles in length. The Damascus Gate is also where the Arab Bazaar or marketplace begins. Before entering any religious site, security is enforced in the four-quarter area to keep out extremists from any religious group to prevent conflicts between them. The Dome of the Rock was built between the year of 685 to 691. It is the oldest surviving example of Islamic architecture. The mosque gets its name from the massive rock located at the center, upon which, according to Islamic history, the Prophet Muhammad stood before he ascended to heaven. The rock is also important to Judaic tradition, which consider it the symbolic foundation upon which the world was built, and the place of the binding of Isaac.
This is Dome of the Rock.
Al-Aqsa Mosque, or the farthest mosque, is considered the third holiest site in Islam. Muslims believe that Prophet Muhammad was transported on a winged steed from the sacred mosque in Mecca to Al-Aqsa Mosque during a night journey. The mosque is also known as the Temple Mount in Judaism. It is believed to be where the temple in Jerusalem once stood.
And of course, they will ask Mr. Amr if he is Muslim or not.
like always. خليه يصور. مين هدول حيسألوه؟
Yes. طبعا هذا كان كلياته كان كله خربان كله زبالة شايف كيف.
Al-Marwani Mosque is located beneath Al-Aqsa Mosque. According to Islamic tradition, Caliph Marwan I transformed the abandoned place into a place of worship. This area was known as Solomon's Stables since Crusader times, during which they were used by the Crusaders as stables. In 1996, the Waqf, which is a religious endowment in Islam, converted the area into a modern mosque capable of housing 7,000 people. Many conflicts occur in the Muslim quarter, outside Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. In addition to thousands of people killed or injured, many buildings have structural damage. This is one of many buildings that have been damaged by bullets. The space between the inner and outer arcades forms an ambulatory around the rock. The shrine's two ambulatories recall the ritual circular movement of pilgrims around the Kaaba in Mecca. The cupola features elaborate floral decorations in red and gold, as well as various inscriptions. The large text commemorates Salah ad-Din, who sponsored restoration work on the building. Centered under the dome of the rock, the holy rock itself can be seen, surrounded by an intricate carved wooden barrier, dating from the year 1199 AD. Beneath the Sakhra is a small cave, measuring about 14 feet square, with a 6-foot ceiling, known as Well of Souls, or Bir al-Arwah in Arabic. A Muslim tradition holds this as the entrance into the bottomless pit, the abyss. The Talmud claims that this is the abyss above the primeval waters of creation and of the flood. Some of the Jewish sages say that this stone was called Shatyah, which in Hebrew also means drinking, because beneath it is hidden the source of all the springs and the fountains from which the world drinks its water. An Arab tradition also states that all the fresh waters of the world have their origin underneath this rock. In religion, ablution is a prescribed washing of part or all of the body, with the intent of purification or dedication. Muslims are required to be clean in preparation for ritual prayers. Wudu shows a sign of respect to Allah as one is clean in the presence of Him. Adhan, which is the Muslim call for prayer, is called out by the muezzin in the mosque, sometimes from a minaret 5 times a day, summoning Muslims for mandatory prayers. The main purpose of Adhan in every mosque is to make available to everyone an easy, intelligible summary of Islamic belief. The mosque's interior is supported by 45 columns, 33 of which are white marble and 12 of stone. A great portion of the mosque is covered with whitewash. The drum of the dome and the walls beneath it are decorated with mosaics and marble. Al-Aqsa Mosque can also hold up to 400,000 worshippers. Jerusalem is also important to the Jewish people because it is believed to be the biblical Zion, the city of David, and the site of Solomon's temple. In Judaism, traditionally 3 prayer services are recited daily, in the morning, afternoon, and in the evening. The Dead Sea is approximately 1,380 feet below sea level, and its shores are the lowest point on the surface of the earth, on dry land. The Dead Sea is 1,240 feet deep, making it the deepest hypersaline lake in the world. It is also one of the world's saltiest bodies of water. It is 8.6 times as salty as the ocean. Due to the extremely high concentration of dissolved mineral salts in the water, its density is way more than of plain water, which means our bodies are more buoyant in the Dead Sea. Jerusalem, by virtue of the number and diversity of people who have held it sacred, may be considered the most holy city in the world. The old city. Jerusalem is an enigma due to the never-ending social, political, and economic problems. As a result of the complex problems, the death toll in Jerusalem is ranked among the highest in the world, with numbers continuing to increase daily. The apartheid wall separates Jerusalem from the rest of the West Bank. It is approximately 403 miles in length and 25 feet in height. Israel's barrier is planned to be 4 times as long and twice as high as the Berlin Wall. As a result of this concrete barrier, Palestinians suffer many socio-economic issues. Some of these issues include the separation of farmers from their fields and the separation of neighborhoods. It also cuts off access to schools, jobs, medical care, and markets. The wall even prevents Palestinians from visiting relatives, cutting them off entirely from the outside world. "74% of the main routes in the West Bank are controlled by checkpoints or blocked entirely. In September of 2008, there were approximately 700 closure obstacles in the West Bank. In addition to checkpoints, the Israeli government implements curfews to restrict and monitor Palestinian movement. Adding on to the checkpoint and curfew implementation, Palestinians are also not allowed in Jerusalem and the rest of Israel. All Palestinians and Israelis are required to have identification cards on them at all times. The color of the folder tells the soldiers what kind of identification the person carries, which in turn tells each individual what kind of rights each person has or doesn't have. West Bank Palestinian identification come in green folders. Jerusalem Palestinians and Israeli citizens carry blue identification cards. And only people with blue identification cards are allowed into Jerusalem. This is how much water we have right here. Get close. This is the amount of water we have. This is the hot water. This is the cold water. It runs out. You're in trouble, man. This is what heats up the hot water right here. This glass heats up the hot water. There are many challenges that the people of this region face, even when trying to acquire simple everyday necessities like food and water. The Israelis control 80% of all water supplies in the occupied territories and dole out water to Palestinians. Israelis get 92.5 gallons per person per day, while Palestinians get 18.5 gallons per person per day. The minimum quantity of water recommended by the U.S. Agency for International Development and the World Health Organization for household and urban use alone is 26.4 gallons per person per day. A produce truck routinely visits Palestinian neighborhoods due to food shortages and travel restrictions. Another major complication that Palestinians face daily is the refugee problem. Refugee camps are located in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, and house somewhat over 1 million refugees. Az-Zarqa, Jordan, is located northeast of Amman, and half of its population migrated from the West Bank following the Six-Day War. There are 10 refugee camps in Jordan. 4 were established after 1948 and 6 in 1968. Although living conditions in Az-Zarqa are depraved, living conditions in Az-Zarqa camp, which is approximately 2 miles away, is much worse. The estimated Palestinian refugees worldwide is 5.5 million, making them the largest refugee population anywhere in the world. The digging under the mosque has become a point of contention for both religious and political reasons between the Palestinians and the Israeli population. According to a report by the United Nations, the Israeli authorities say that the excavations is meant to salvage archaeological remains ahead of the construction of a new pedestrian walkway to the religious compound located in East Jerusalem. However, according to Arab News, the Foundation for Endowment and Heritage stated that the Israeli move aimed at Judaizing Jerusalem and the Al-Aqsa Mosque surrounding. The objective of the excavation is to demolish Al-Aqsa Mosque and to build the so-called Second Temple on the ruins of the mosque. Ramallah is a city in the central West Bank, with a population nearly 26,000, It is located 6 miles north of Jerusalem and currently serves as the administrative capital of the Palestinian National Authority. Although life in the city, like many others, appears to be typical, Palestinian citizens are subject to random searches and arrests. These arrests can happen anywhere, at home, on the street, or at an Israeli checkpoint. In most cases, the arrests happen during house raids, often conducted after midnight, in which no reason is given for the detention. Since Israel objected a Jerusalem burial, claiming Yasser Arafat was a terrorist who planned out attacks against them, Ramallah had to be the burial site of the Palestinian president. The Palestinian people say that this will not be his final burial, because they hope Yasser Arafat will one day be buried in Jerusalem, the capital of Palestine. Attar is a Palestinian village in Ramallah, located in the central West Bank, a village of nearly 2,300 inhabitants. It is situated along a mountain ridge line with 4 peaks and is built upon the second highest point in the West Bank at approximately 2,450 feet above sea level. A hookah is a single or multi-stemmed instrument for smoking tobacco in which the smoke is cooled and filtered by passing through water. It was originated from India and has gained popularity especially in the Middle East, and has also gained popularity in North America, Europe, and Australia. Poetry is one of the most important facets that identify the Arabs as a distinct civilization. This literature depicts most clearly the history of Arabs by grasping the ideals and images of customs, traditions, and values. Debka in Arabic means stomping the feet. Debka is the most popular Arab folk dance in Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. It is also danced in parts of Egypt, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. Debka is a line dance that is widely performed at weddings and joyous occasions. The leader of the line is allowed to improvise on the type of debka being danced, and he or she would also be twirling a handkerchief or string of beads, known as mesbaha, while the rest of the dancers keep the rhythm.
تغني لي وانا اغني لك احرق نار 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 بنص الليل بعد ثلاجينك تغني لي وانا اغني لك من شدايلك وانا حنانا يا زين حريت هاي
The King David Hotel is a 5-star hotel in Jerusalem. The hotel was built with locally curried pink limestone and opened in 1931. It was founded by Frank Goldsmith, father of the billionaire investor Sir James Goldsmith. The King David Hotel is now a Jerusalem landmark and one of Israel's most famous hotels. Teddy Stadium is a soccer stadium in Israel. The stadium gets its name from a longtime Jerusalem mayor named Teddy Kollek, who was in office during the time of its construction.
عمر ايش بيحكوا له بهناك عمر روح قدام ورا قدام اوعى يفرصني عمر
West Bank camels. West Bank camels, man.
هر
Only in the Middle East, man. We don't ride camels over there. We ride them over here.
Yeah. حسن سيارة مسكرة؟ خليه يركض خليه يركض ران ران وين؟ فيديو ها؟ ايه ايه
حافظ الطريق.
ايه How free man? أحلى صورة؟
حلو.